Hey y'all. I just dropped a video in YouTube, but I want to go ahead and pick up where we kind of left off in our STEM scopes activity. I want to go ahead and scroll up just a little bit and remind you that this is where we left off on Thursday. We picked up on Friday reading about lookout, and we talked about speed and velocity being similar. Speed simply being distance divided by time. So you would say, for instance, kilometers per hour or meters per second, or what you might be more familiar with would be like miles per hour. But we tend to use metric in science. All right, so moving forward, we are looking at, first of all, how to compute speed. If you have forgotten how to compute speed, you can go ahead and drop the other video in my YouTube channel. Check out the one that says calculating speed. So we're going to go ahead and look at where our STEM scopes activity is because some people were a little confused. And I have to admit, I think they made it a little more confusing than they had to. So let's look at this first. It says, look at the map below. The red line shows the path the person walked from home to school, blah, blah, blah. But I want to point out this compass right here. It seems a little wonky. Like they took it and went, "Arr." So as you're reading your directions for your velocity, kind of keep it in mind that north randomly points somewhat to the right and west is kind of up and to the left. They made it, I think, a little more difficult than it had to be. But regardless of what we think, we're going to use that particular compass for our activity. So it says, describe the route in terms of distance and direction, calculate the speed for each of the 5 segments, and give the velocity for each of the 5 segments of the trip. Calculate the average speed for the whole trip by adding all the individual distances and dividing by the sum of all of the time it took. So for instance, let me go ahead and let's do this step by step. So the first one says, I started here and I walked this way. How far did I walk? 90 meters. How long did it take me? 30 seconds. Which direction did I travel? Well, a lot of you guys, when I was looking at your STEM scope activity, you wrote southeast. And while if I looked at this and I thought, well, yeah, it kind of looks southeast. But remember, we have to use their directions, their compass, because up isn't always north, right? Depending on where a map is, talk to your geography teacher for more information about that. So looking at this compass, which direction did I travel? I traveled east. You see that? I traveled east. So for my first box, I'm going to go ahead to here, segment A, and I'm going to write, and I wrote this in for you already, 90 meters, because it says walked 90 meters in 30 seconds, 30 seconds. And then I simply said, well, how many times does 30 go into 90? Because remember on that calculating speed video that I posted, it's basically a division problem. Distance on top, time on the bottom, that's how you're going to get your speed. So always take that numerator. If you're going to key it into a calculator, you're going to key numerator first. That's the one on the top. And then divide it by your denominator. So how many times does 30 go into 90? 3 times. So what's my speed? 3 meters a second. 3 meters per second. Make sense so far? What's my velocity? Scary science word, velocity. Velocity just simply means speed in a given direction. So it's 3 meters per second east. According to this, make it go away. According to this direction heading downwards this way is east. So let's look at our next one. Section B, I'm going to start here and I'm going to walk this way. So as I walk this way, it says here that I walked 120 meters in 60 seconds. So I came down here and I plugged in 120 meters in 60 seconds. So what's my speed? How many times does 60 go into 120? Twice. So 2 meters per second. Scary science word. What's my velocity? My velocity is the same thing as my speed, 2 meters per second, north. And I know it's north because I can look up here at my compass and say that pointing to the upper right is going to be north, and that's the direction I walked, upper right. So remember, velocity is just simply speed in a given direction. Now, I didn't do all of these for you because I want to give you all the answers. You guys need to have some of the fun. So the next one that I did, however, was the third one, and that's coming down here. And I walked 250 meters in 50 seconds. So from here I went, what direction is that? Well, according to this, east again. So 250 meters in 50 seconds. How many times does 50 go into 250? 5. So it's 5 meters per second. 5 meters per second, what? East. Now I'm going to let you guys do segment D and segment E on your own. So you simply click there, and I'm going to look at my next section, 120 meters in 40 seconds. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say my distance was 140 meters, and it took me, 120 meters in 40 seconds. So 120 meters, my time was 40 seconds. How many times does 40 go into 120? 3. So then my speed is 3. 3 what? 3 meters per second. All right. What would be my velocity? Well, my velocity would be whatever direction I'm going. Now, from here, you're going to finish that. You're going to do segment E. Then the final one is, what's my average speed? My average speed, I'm going to take my total distance, and I'm going to divide it by my total time. Because if I just simply took my average distance, my average speeds, and just added my speeds and divided it by how many speeds I took, it's not necessarily going to give me my average speed. Because if you remember from the lesson that I talked to you guys about, if I'm going to go from here to, let's say, I don't know, Ruidoso, New Mexico, and let's pretend for a second that it's 600 kilometers away, I'm not going to say, well, what was my average speed? Well, I drove down my driveway at, 5 kilometers an hour, and then down the street here at 25 kilometers an hour. Well, then I hit a school zone, and then I'm not going to add all those together. What I'm going to do is take my entire distance, 600 kilometers, and I'm going to divide it by my entire time. Let's say it took me 10 hours. How many times does 10 go into 600? 60. So my average speed is 60 kilometers an hour. That's not the answer for STEM scopes. That's just an example. So if my average speed was 60 kilometers an hour, does that mean I went down my driveway and then 60 kilometers an hour and then no. But my average speed, sometimes I was going faster, sometimes I was going slower. So what you're going to do for your STEM scope activity right here is you're going to add all of your distance together, including E, which you're going to do on your own, and you're going to divide that by all of the time added together. So add all your distance, come up with a number, add all your time, come up with a number, and then simply divide it. That's how you find average speed. If you have any questions, you guys know where to reach me. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you later. Bye.